Hello, welcome. I'm Jason White. And this is Jason's Weird Reads, and today I'm going to be doing a video I forgot to do earlier. Alright, so today, Sunday, September the 24th of 2023, marks part 2 of the Week of Weird. Now, I did a video for that. You can check that out, and pretty much all my choices are coming from this book here. Actually, all of them are. So you can check out that TBR video. But I said I was going to do a video, I'm pretty sure I did, on that video, that I was going to give some translated works, some weird fiction translated works, and I completely gapped that I was going to do it. And part of me, honestly, probably didn't want to do it because finding hard fiction or weird fiction can be really difficult, and it wasn't actually all that difficult finding translated weird fiction. There's an article I'm going to be talking from and reading from, and it's from wonderlandpress.com. I'll have it linked below so you can go check it out yourself, but I'll have all the pictures over here as I usually do. And I also have two that one of them was recommended to me, and another one was I found while checking out that other book. So I think I have a pretty good list here. So let's get right into it. So these are translated weird fiction books for the Week of Weird Part 2. All right, so first up is Now You're One of Us by Asa Nonami. I'm probably going to butcher all of these names, just as a heads up. And I really don't mean to. I wish I was good at pronouncing names, but I'm not. So this is a piece of Japanese fiction, and it is translated by Michael Volek. So here's, from that article I was talking about, here is what they said about it. Now You're One of Us is the tale of an upper-class Japanese family gone wrong. So wrong. This book is like a combination of Liane Moriarty, Big Little Lies, and The Husband's Secret, and an instruction novel on how to run a profitable family cult. While other books on this list are weird and surreal, this book is weird and juicy, scratching the itch for scandal in a way that's so over the top it becomes almost a satire. So that sounds interesting, and this I would say on this list is probably the least of the weird fiction. But I've heard that this book is pretty strange from other sources too. It's the only book on this list I actually recognize. Next up is The Vegetarian by Han King. This book is from South Korea, and it was translated into English by Deborah Smith. And here's what that article had to say about it. The Vegetarian is a tale of a woman who, against her family wishes, decides to stop eating meat. After a series of sensual nightmares leads her to worry about the darker side of her nature. The strongly feminist story feels like a combination of Franz Kafka and Virginia Woolf. It's short and written in a clear, direct style that lends itself to book club mischief. I don't know what that means exactly, but it sounds pretty cool. It's kind of interesting that you would come to realize your darker side just because you're eating meat. I'm not against vegetarians or vegans by any means, but I don't know, maybe it's a cultural thing. Okay, next up is Matka by Karin Tidbeck. Now this is from Sweden, and it's translated by the author. Here is what that article says about this book. A marketing researcher in personal hygiene products travels to a farming community, Matka, to see whether any of the products they make can be used in her hometown. However, Matka mainly farms fungus products that turn into goop if they aren't properly cared for. Another short book that is clearly and directly written, deliberately so, in a way that becomes horrifying. That becomes more horrifying as the story progresses. The story reads like a combination of 1984 and Stanislaw Lem's alien novel Solaris. So that's a pretty interesting combination. So next up is The Memory Police. This one is by Yoko Agawa. and this is another book from Japan, and it's translated by Stephen Snyder. Unlike a lot of weird fiction, which can be skimpy on descriptions, I have never read, I just have to say here, I've never read a weird fiction book that was skimpy on descriptions. Anyways, maybe they were sarcastic, I don't know. Anyways, unlike a lot of weird fiction, which can be skimpy on descriptions, this book is invested in incredible details. It feels like the difference between a concrete bunker and a Miyazaki movie like Spirited Away. However, because this book is about how remembering the wrong things can cost you, the details serve to increase the tension of the book. I recommend this one if you like Japanese classics by filmmaker Akira Kurosawa. It feels like his kind of story, zooming in on the small details and exploring conflicting points of view. That one sounds very interesting. All right, next up is Kalpa Imperial, The Greatest Empire That Ever Was, by Angelica Goradischer. And this book is from Argentina, and it was translated by Ursula K. Le Guin, who is very much a respected author in her own right, and rest in peace, Ursula. This book is the history of an unnamed empire over its various ages, seen from after its fall and from another country. Kalpa means aeon in Sanskrit, which is interesting. The title loosely translates to the time between the creation and recreation of an empire. The writer of this article doesn't recommend this one for your book club. It's more meant for leisure reading. I don't know why that couldn't be a book club book either. There's a twist to the book that slowly becomes apparent toward the end. Read this if you like Ursula K. Le Guin's books or Gene Wolfe's Solar Cycle. Okay, so the next... there was like an honorable mention. This is an older book, I believe, in this article, and it's The Complete Stories of Lenora Carrington. And this book or collection of short stories was written in Mexico. And it's translated by Catherine Talbot, Anthony Kerrigan, and Marina Warner. 3 translators on that one. And I imagine it's because it's a collection of short stories that there was a collaboration of translations. I could be wrong, but that's what I think. All right, this is what the article says about that. Lenora Carrington was a surrealist writer and painter who wrote short fable-like stories for adults and children as strange as anything Salvador Dali ever painted or wrote. Each story seems at first glance to have been sloppily tossed together, but in a way that makes perfect sense and never wastes a word. I found myself reading these tales, not so much for their meaning, and there is meaning, but as a sort of brain refresher, clearing out the daily dust that had gathered in my brain. Read these stories if you like Dali or Frida Kahlo. All right, now on to one book that was recommended to me on the first week of Weird. And I wanted to add it into this one, but I think I'm going to save it for the next one, assuming there is going to be a next one. So this one is A Different Darkness and Other Abominations by Luigi Musolino. And this book was written in Italy, and translated by James D. Jenkins. And this is the synopsis for A Different Darkness and Other Abominations. In lactic acid, a runner, and this is mostly because it's a collection of short stories. These are some of the synopsises or the blurbs for what type of stories you'll find in this collection. In lactic acid, a runner out for a jog through the countryside decides to take a shortcut that leads him straight into a nightmare. In Youre, I hope I pronounced that right, Youre, a jaded truck driver hears an eerie legend of a mysterious highway exit that leads to another dimension. But the reality of the horror he finds there is beyond his wildest imagination. In The Stag, a journalist covering traditional festival in a small town finds himself lost in the woods with a monstrous and terrible deity. And in the title novella, After a girl vanishes from a supermarket without a trace, her grieving parents begin to find solace when they discover a bottomless hole in their basement from which the little girl's voice seems to be coming. That sounds creepy as hell, and really sad too. And that's a that's a collection I definitely want to read. It's high on my TBR list. Like I said, I am going to tackle that one, I believe, for the next week of Weird. And The Black Maybe. This is the last collection of short stories. So The Black Maybe, Liminal Tales by Attila Verez. And this was originally published in Hungary, and it's translated by Luca Karafeith. I hope I pronounced that correctly. And here is the synopsis for some of the stories in this one. Stories ranging from weird fiction, like Snow and the Sleeping, in which a couple's vacation to a health spa erodes into a surreal nightmare, to folk horror, like Return to the Midnight School, in which the things that emerge from the soil in one rural farming community are bizarre and horrific, to Lovecraft-inspired tales like Multiplied by Zero, written as a wry travelogue in which a man sets out on a deadly holiday tour to explore Lovecraftian landscapes. And in the title story, The Black Maybe, which Steve Rasnick-Tem calls one of the weirdest tales I've read in years. That's saying something. A girl and her family escape to the bustling city to experience farm life, only to discover only to discover with an unimaginable horror the truth of what is really being harvested there. All right, so that's I think 8 or 9 translated weird fiction books that you can check out. I am not the most versed in this topic at all, but I want to be. So if you have any suggestions, please leave them down there in the darkness. And that is it for this video. Thank you for watching. Keep being safe and keep being creative, and I'll catch you guys in the next bookish video.